Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Genre Blender podcast, a celebration of storytelling across books, games, TV, film, and more. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Kris, and today's topic is memorable queer characters or memorable LGBTQIA plus and whatever other letter that we have stolen from the alphabet characters. So first of all, happy Pride, Ryan.
Happy Pride.
I know that Trump has tried to take it away from us in the US, but we refuse. We refuse to be silenced.
We're celebrating, and it's I'm feeling it actually a little bit. I
Yeah.
know it's a little bit it can feel a little bit like a bit of a downer, but I think people are in good spirits generally. They're trying to make a thing of it. So
I was gonna say, like, last year I was not like in the mood at all. I just want to put my
Yeah.
head in the sand. And this year I'm more of a, you know what? We need to be visible and we need to band together now more than ever. So like I'm pretty pumped to get out there and be
Good.
visible this time
we'll
around.
bring that energy today.
I mean, I feel like this
Yeah.
really sets the scene for what we're going to talk about today.
It's a giant queer as fuck.
I mean, look, I don't know that the undercovers of them are PG, so I won't take the DVDs out of the.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube may not like that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So memorable queer characters. That's what we'll be talking about today. We've touched on a little bit of like some of the shows and books and things in previous episodes, and we'll probably speak about that a bit. But this episode is more of a focus on the characters themselves and the ones that kind of were our favorites or the ones that stuck in our minds throughout the years.
What was interesting when I was looking at stuff for this episode hours ago, because I left it too late, was characters that I don't necessarily like. And like in shows that I don't necessarily like, but there might have been a scene or something that that character touched upon or something that the show did that has really just stayed in my brain. It's something that I carry around with me since watching it, which is quite interesting. And also like just self-discovery, which I'm sure we'll get into as we run through our lists of characters.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But before we jump into that, I believe you do have some news that you want to touch on and some of our Read, Watch, Play after that.
I do. Look, we'll keep the news on theme, right? So I'll have a link for this one down below, but if you are looking for some LGBTQIA plus friendly games, humblebundle.com do have a Pride game, little subset that you can pick up for $20.70 AUD,
Nice.
and it does include Echoes of Plum Grove. So I've gone ahead and picked that one up because I want to play Echoes of Plum Grove, and there's a few others in there. So I think it's 7 games is the big bundle, and that's $20.70. It's one of those things where you pay what you can, so they give you a base rate just to make sure they are getting some money. If you can afford more, you give more, and you go on from there. They do have bundles of 3, 5, and 7 games, so we do have that. And also a show that I know we're both going to talk about today is on June 3rd. We have Leisha Haley and Kate Mellening have released their memoir called So Gay For You, Friendship, Found Family, and the Show That Started It All, where they talk about the L word and their friendship from there. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've seen them do some promo for it in shorts and things like that. So that is probably up on my next to listen to after I finish my current audiobook.
Nice. You can let me know what that one's like because that was on my radar a little bit too. It looks pretty cool. It's cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, I know they've been huge queer advocates. I mean, Leisha Haley's been a huge queer advocate for most of my life, my adult life. I've been in the, listening to what she has to say. Kat Mellening, not so much, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be good to listen to it. Quite nostalgic, cool. I feel like as an old gay.
Yeah.
as an old
Come
gay. I should say queer, I guess.
Oh, funny. Yeah, we're not that old. Come on. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's one it's on my radar as well, so you can let me know what that's like. Cool. So I guess did you have any more news, or is that your news?
No, that's it. We're just going to keep it to
1 point
to some Pride stuff.
Short and sweet. What about your Read, Watch, Play? What have you been reading, watching, and playing?
Well, I finished the 2 books I was reading last time, and I finished it like seconds before I clicked into this, so I won't talk about them again because I've already spoken about them.
Mm-hmm.
Which means I've got a clean slate right now, which is a very weird feeling. And I'm sure like by the end of today, I will have picked up something new. I'm probably going to pick up The Crippled God by Stephen Erickson, which is the last book in the main set of Malazan Book of the Fallen. So I'll be reading that alongside the Wikipedia page, because every time I pick up one of these books, I need to know what is going on. So it's always like, you can tell when I'm reading a Malazan book because my phone will have like 10 tabs open of different characters and their Wikipedia pages to figure out what the hell is going on.
That's me when I play a lot of RPGs, so I'm glad I'm not alone there.
Where am I? What am I doing? So yeah, that's pretty much it for reading. I have downloaded Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson, which is a thriller about someone who calls into a podcast and they confess their crimes, like their murders, and then something goes awry
Oh,
and they have to try and solve one together. I'm not sure, but I have got that. So that'll be my next audiobook, and then probably So Gay For You after that. But that's it at the moment. I don't have anything going on, which feels weird as
that is weird
an
for you, actually.
excessive reader. But what I have done is watched more TV shows, and I won't go into the shark stuff because no one cares. I watched a bunch of National Geographic on a plane, and I feel sorry for the people behind me because it was like a bunch of stuff about when sharks attack particular cities and trying to figure out why they were there. So I'm sure whoever was behind me is well traumatized.
Probably,
If they
yes.
were looking over the shoulder. But I did finish the first season of the animated Tomb Raider show on Netflix. So that's The
Oh,
Legend
cool.
of Lara Croft, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I watched 8 episodes back to back. I didn't move, which is unheard of
Yeah, for
for me.
you,
So I was
yes.
quite entertained. Had a good time with that. I also started Heartstopper season 2, and I'm sure we'll talk about
Nice.
Nick Nelson. I've got him on my list to talk about
I
as
completely
a
forgot
character.
about Heartstopper. It's not on my
Um,
list, but I'm glad it's on
Look, I
yours.
don't love the show, but I realize how important it is for kids like
Yes.
nowadays and teenagers coming into their own. I think I just don't love it because it's not my lived experience.
Yeah, no, that's
It'd be
totally fair.
different if it was. But yeah, I love Nick and Charlie as much as anybody else does. I think it's a very
Yeah.
sweet story, and they're dealing with mental health this time around, which is quite dark for the show to go into, which has been interesting. And I also started Devil May Cry, so the animated series on Netflix.
Oh, cool.
I've watched 5 of the 7 episodes, so I should have that finished by the next time we get together.
Nice. You
Uh,
enjoying that one?
I liked the first 3.5 episodes, and then like now it's getting a bit same for me. I like the story. Like I
Mhm.
enjoy the premise of it. I can see why it has to be an animation, as opposed
Yeah.
to something like you can't do the stuff with the demons.
Yeah.
With like our tech isn't there to do
Yeah.
that sort of thing with CGI and special effects and things like that. So I've enjoyed it for the most part. We'll see how I feel at the end, but at the moment, it's like I feel like the last episode and a half that I've watched has just been the same formula. We're not
That's fair.
adding anything more to the
To,
story.
to be fair, the games are exactly the same. Like they,
But
like
I
they
feel
have their
like
fans, but
mhm.
they're very much of the same thing.
I feel like in game format that'd be great though,
Oh, it
and
is.
it's quite interesting when you take mediums like a game and then put it into something else because sometimes it really
Yeah.
works,
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't. I think they definitely have to go animation for this particular
Yeah.
game if it was going to work, and it's going to have those same fans. I've never played the games, but I was just curious about the story, and I love the soundtrack, so I was like, give it a
Oh,
go.
yes,
The
that's a really good
soundtrack is
point.
amazing
Yeah.
for this show, and I've been playing Fantasy Life.
Have you
I
really? I didn't.
have. I bought it yesterday morning, and I've sunk.
Wow.
I've only put 2 hours into it so far. I'm about to. I don't want to give spoilers
Nice.
away, but I'm about to continue the storyline because I got real invested in choosing my life. So I picked like 5 of them. I was like, wait, I'm meant to be doing other things. So yeah, I have started that, and I think that will preoccupy my time for a little while.
For the foreseeable future, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's really awesome. So, another mate of mine just bought it as well. So you're playing it. Steph's. So, bit of a spoiler alert. I bought the Switch too, and Steph's also my partner Steph has also got a Switch too, and because of the game, not game share, that's something else. But the way that you can actually share your games, the
Mhm.
virtual game carts. So I've actually loaned it to her now, and she's playing it. So everyone in
That's
my life's playing it.
when we talk about digital media in a few weeks' time. I think there are some benefits to it, and that's one of them.
That's one of
That's
them.
really cool.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah. You don't have to take the card out. Oh, cool. I'm glad you're playing it, and I can't wait to play multiplayer. That's going to be a ton of fun because it is cross-play
Well,
and
when
cross-platform
we
and
hang
cross-save.
out next weekend, I'm gonna bring my
Yes.
Switch. So,
Hey, nice. So you playing it on Switch?
yeah, I bought it on the
Yeah,
Switch.
cool.
Just the
Okay.
OLED because I don't have any money to buy
Yeah,
a
no,
new
that's
one.
it. It's fine. I mean, I ended up buying it twice because I'm stupid like that. But it's fine on the Switch. I bought it originally on Steam Deck because I thought it wouldn't run very well on the Switch, and then
Mm,
it's fine for the
it's
type
fine.
of game it is. It's fine. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about
Exciting.
you?
Hey, I'm excited.
I love the eyebrow raise, so
Yes.
you can give yourself in this episode, not me.
Great. What have I been? So, look, reading pretty much not much at all. I've been busy with games, but reading Norwegian Wood still, Murakami. So maybe by next episode I'll be finished with that. Um, but I watched after last fortnight's episode. I ended up watching Mother because I was curious and because you'd spoken so highly of it. And wow, what a film! I didn't realize it was an allegory. Like, so
Yeah.
when I watched it and it's eventually started revealing itself, I was like, oh, I know what this is doing. And then I was in because I was, picking up little bits and pieces, and it was actually quite clever. Like, it was a little bit too on the nose, I guess. It was quite obvious with what it was trying to do, but I thought it was really clever, and that was unexpected because I went into it knowing nothing, right?
It's still one of my favorite films. I think it was so well done.
Yeah, it was has a lot of things that are unique that I've not really seen
Mm.
in film before. So anyway, that was definitely an experience. Liked it. I was actually shot on a was it like a Super 16 or something? Anyway, there is like that film look to it
Yeah.
that worked really well too. So it was visually quite interesting. So I watched that. I've been watching Murderbot. I watched all of what's available, I think, until the last episode.
It's 4 episodes out. I've downloaded the first 3. I don't love the actor. Nor
Neither
do I love
It's
Murderbot. So I
yeah,
am I
yeah,
watching True Blood right now, which is like his first acting gig. I'm like, it's
yeah,
such a
right.
different concept, which I think
Yeah.
I've heard interviews from him talking about. He's like, I've enjoyed playing something very different to what I would normally play.
Yeah, there's no other character quite like Murderbot, really. Look, I can understand that because I'm not his biggest fan either. And I went into it kind of being a little bit sour on it because they had the opportunity to have like a non-binary actor or someone agender or whatever, just someone else, but they didn't, which is fine because I think you kind of need to sell it as well. Like it's you got to get the popularity angle too, and I understand why they made that choice. It's fine. That aside, the show is actually pretty good. It's funny. It's sarcastic. It's witty. It's like the books, although I still do prefer the books. And the books aren't my favorite books ever, and the show isn't my favorite show ever. But the episodes are short, and it's kind of just some nice, lighthearted fun that's sci-fi as well, and had some big ideas in it too. So it's kind of scratching that itch for me. So yeah, it was alright. I'm gonna stick with it. It's not game changing, but it's alright.
I mean, I've got it. I have Apple TV for the next 3 months, so like,
Yeah, cool.
I feel
It's
like
worth
it's low
watching.
commitment.
Yes.
It's only 20-minute episodes, so or 30
Yeah.
minute episodes,
100%.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep. And I watched it's a mini series called Adolescence. I don't know if you've watched
I've
it or
heard of
heard of
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
haven't
wasn't
watched it.
going to. I went into it knowing what it was, and I was like, okay, I need to watch this because the reason I actually chose to watch it is because each episode is a one shot, a one take. They've
The way they did it was
amazingly.
fascinating.
Yeah, and I've not watched the behind the scenes stuff. I know there's stuff out there, and some interviews and things. But I was just fascinated by that, and they really knocked it out of the park with that. It's kind of amazing what they were able
It
to
was
achieve.
some of those kids' first acting gig as well,
I
which
know
is
he's not been in anything
incredible.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've not watched it because it's very dark, and I don't know if I'm mentally
yeah,
prepped enough
yeah,
for it.
yeah. That's totally fair. You need to go into it knowing what it is. I won't talk about it here. That's a downer on the topic. That's we don't need to bring that into it today. But anyway, I did enjoy it. I thought it was brilliant. And then as for games, so yes, Switch 2. So I finished Fantasy Life-I. I rolled credits on it. Obviously, I'm not
How
finished
have you
with it.
finished it so?
45 hours I put into it. I don't
That's
know how I did that.
pretty
because
decent. I also feel like it's one of those games you can just play and play and play and play.
I think that's kind of what happened. I
Yeah.
just in between things, I would just pick it up and play. So it's proving the point that like if I want to do something, I've got plenty of time to do it. For books and other things. Anyway,
If you want to, if you're
yeah,
mentally prepared to do those things.
that's it. And I also finished Mario Kart. At least the rolled credits on it, so I can actually play it for funsies now. Mario Kart World on Switch 2. It's amazing. It's just absolute pure joy. I haven't had so much fun playing a game in a long time.
I don't think
Steph
I've
and I
heard
have been playing
anything
together.
bad
No,
about Mario
there's
Kart World.
There's nothing bad about it. It's just, I think the only thing I've heard is literally, is it worth the $80 price? And my gut instinct is yeah, because it's fun. It's just pure fun. Um, yeah, I love it. I'm going to be playing it a ton just for kicks. It's just, it's great multiplayer game, but also like I'm just playing it by myself too. It's fine.
I feel that's one of the things that I will pick up on occasion because like you play the relays or whatever. It's like
Yeah,
25 minutes, and like it's a
yeah,
fun 25 minutes to go and race 4 races and be done with it. But
absolutely.
I look forward to kicking your ass next weekend.
Hey, please, I'm not. I do not proclaim to be an expert at Mario Kart at all. In fact, I'm really rusty at it. But it's a ton of fun. The free roaming part of it though, like that's a game changer. You can just like
You've never been
roam
able to do that
around.
before. Like, yeah, that's
It's
cool.
just so cool.
Nice one.
Yeah. I've been playing that. I started playing Death Stranding. I was going to surprise Chris, but he saw me playing it, so he knows now that I've been playing it. Um,
How do you feel
it's
about it?
um
I feel like
okay.
it's not your style of game.
So here's the thing with Death Stranding, and I think it's a divisive game for a reason. The story, I'm in. Like it's fucking weird as like I don't know what's going on, and I'm so in. I want to know. Maybe those questions that I have probably won't even get answered, but that's okay. I'm in. I'm in
I
it.
can guarantee you they don't.
That's fine. It's just so interesting. The gameplay though, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not dying to pick it back up because I know, even though I want to know what the story's doing, I know what the gameplay is, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's for me. So I might still play some. I'm hoping to not have to just resort to like a let's play on YouTube or
Mm-mm.
something, but I don't know. We'll see.
Just come over. Rachel's playing it now.
Yeah,
Just
just watch her
watch
play
it.
it.
Just watch it
Yeah,
happen.
tell her to stream it, and I'll watch her play it.
I was thinking of I need to find someone who's played The Witcher 3 now that The Witcher 4 has had their
Yes.
first like gameplay trailer. I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
play as Siri. I don't
Yeah.
want to play The Witcher 3. So I
Yeah.
need someone who's
Absolutely.
played it so I can watch it.
Yeah. There's heaps of let's plays out there for that, but they're so long. That's a commitment just to watch
It's
the
a
damn thing.
long game. But I can watch things at 2 times speed, so
It's true. He can. That's true. I
I
cannot.
can watch Chipmunks like playing
I
Witcher.
don't know how you
Be
do
fine.
that. Seriously.
Practice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool. That's it.
okay, no, it's not. What about Claire Obscure?
I have it.
Tell
I
me.
haven't played it
Okay.
yet. So.
Oh, I thought you'd been doing things with bins.
What?
Checking bins on your Instagram was like a story that came up.
Oh, yes, the trash bin thing. Yeah, no, I haven't played it yet. I just came across that and thought it was hilarious. No, it's sitting over there. I can look at it, and it's right over there. But I just
That's add it to the
haven't.
to be played list.
It's later. I'm playing Switch 2 right now. I don't want to play my PlayStation at the moment, so that's a later, but probably not too far away.
Fair enough. That's one I'll probably get if I ever finally get a handheld PC gaming platform.
Yeah,
I'll get it.
yeah.
That can do more than my poor dying laptop that no one can hear, but Ryan can hear.
Oh, yes, I can.
All right.
Cool. So shall we talk about memorable queer characters?
Let's go. And I think we've got a few shows in particular that we've both watched over the course of our time that we can probably delve into a little bit. I was saying to Ryan before we started recording, it's interesting that we've picked some of the same shows, which makes sense, similar ages, similar, life outlooks and goals and things like that. And we've picked different characters, which is, I feel like, on brand for us at this stage. Same, but different.
Exactly. Yeah, as I said in the intro before, we've kind of touched on a lot of these like
Mm.
shows and movies and stuff before, but we haven't really dived deeper into like the actual characters and the representation so much. So it's a good opportunity to do that. Do you want to do it through like the read, watch, play format, or how do you want to do this?
Maybe we group the light characters together. Like, for example, we've got shows. Maybe we start with shows, and then because we have watched and read, or you've got gaming stuff which I don't, different things. Then like maybe if we go queer, men, and we talk about that and what we've seen in queer females and non-binary. We've got a couple of non-binary characters in here as well, and group it that way.
Cool.
Let's go through the alphabet. The
Oh, God.
LGBTQIA plus.
Oh, okay, that alphabet.
Yeah.
That's okay. I thought, for a minute.
The
you were-
acronym,
that's fine.
sorry.
Yeah, it's almost.
So
the
we can
alphabet.
start with the L. The
Okay.
L word. Let's go. That was a
Nice.
big one for me coming into any sort of sexuality.
Yeah. I guess that was the first one for me. That and Queer as Folk in the background.
Yeah,
We'll come back to that. But yeah, that was one of the early ones for me for sure. And so
yeah.
who do
It.
you remember in there the most?
I remember the. I feel like controversial take for anyone who's around this age, because what I took from it was a relationship dynamic and a storyline that was done in season one, and that is the love triangle between Jenny, Marina,
Yeah,
I want to say her name was, and Tim. And I had to go and look up Tim's name because I had no idea. It was like the dude with the
yeah,
face. It's
the
like,
dude.
what's
Yeah,
the one
the
dude
dude
that's
with
in
the
this
face.
entire show? The one straight man in the show. Like, where is he? What was his name? Um, and this was such a eye opener for me as a. I probably heard about the L word when it was airing. So, and I started questioning my sexuality at about 14. So when I hit puberty, and I was like, I'm just going to shove that right down. So I'd heard about the L word because I think it came out around that time. I think it was 2005. I want to say, like right after Queer as Folk finished. I feel like the L word started. And I graduated high school in 2008. So I'd heard about it from people watching it where I was working, and I just didn't twig for a little bit. And I was like, oh, I. Then I got out of high school, and I was like, I know I'm actually questioning my sexuality now. Like, what's going on? And I found it, and I was so captivated by these three characters. Now, controversial because no one really likes Jenny.
No,
Towards the end of the show,
actively hated Jenny.
Yeah, like towards the end of the show, Jenny's actually a horrific human being.
Yeah, that
They
ending.
they
God.
did that actor dirty with the storylines that she got, because like now
Very
if you
much.
see this actress in anything else, you're like, Jenny, get
Yeah.
fucked.
Yep.
Don't
Yep.
like you.
That's. I'm glad that's not just me because
Because
that's exactly what happens.
she was in Lost Girl, which we'll talk about as well. For she had like a side character part
Yes.
in
Oh, I
season
forgot about
4,
that.
and when she was in it, I was like, no, just
Just
no,
can't.
just no.
No.
Anyway, so not to go into the whole thing, but Jenny moves to LA, straight relationship with Tim, ends up falling in love with Marina. I was so captivated by Marina. I was like, oh, tall, statuesque, kind of a bitch. Yes. Like
Oh yeah.
my type, I'll follow you around. I'll do what you want me
Nice.
to do. Um, but it was so powerful for me because I was questioning my sexuality. I had been in relationships as a female with men, being like, what the fuck is going on? And having that dynamic play around the same time that my brain was trying to figure it out was kind of
Mm.
wild. So and it was very, very messy because it's drama, like it's high drama.
Yeah.
My own story, thankfully, not as messy. Um, but yeah, those characters always stick in my brain as the eye opener for me to go, oh, this can be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I was like absolutely deterred. Like I did not like the love triangle thing. That was the thing that I was just like, no, not really. I'm just not interested in that. But my God, Jenny as a character, yeah, active hate going on there. And you're right. Like I can't watch her in anything else now. It's so sad. That's such a bad
And
thing
she
too.
was so
That they
good in like the Black Dahlia. I think she was the.
She's an amazing. I
She's
don't
a
even know the actor's
great
name, but
actress.
she's so good. She's that role though. Like the reason we hate Jenny so much is she sold it. She was like so good at it.
Is it Mia
Um,
Krishna? I have to know now.
yeah, I
I have to
don't
know her
know,
name.
but yeah, I think look for me with the L word, like it was most of the characters. I felt like I didn't really relate to them, even though, yes, I was
Mm.
also questioning my sexuality at the time, and that didn't make sense in my head. But also, I didn't feel like the
I
high
think
drama
that's the
thing.
thing, is that I didn't relate to any of them.
Yeah, right. And that confused me. I liked the show, but I was confused. But then when they brought Max Sweeney in,
Mm.
that was like, then I was just like, oh, here's a character that I kind of see myself in, and what like that. But at the time, did not. There was no alarm bells going off. It
Yeah,
was
I
just
didn't twig at
didn't.
all, and
Yeah, no,
I didn't even understand
yeah,
what was happening to
yeah,
Max.
yeah, yeah. It was
I
confusing, but it was intriguing.
I was quite captivated by Moira. So Max is a trans character who transitions legally and
Probably should have
illegally
said that. Whoops.
on
Yes.
the show. I didn't twig at all. I didn't even understand what the testosterone shots were doing. I realized that they wanted to be more masculine, and like I saw it visually.
Yeah.
I didn't understand any of it, but I was quite captivated by more his character. So this is Daniela C, who is a
Mhm.
non-binary actor.
Who I think goes by Daniel C now. I think.
Daniel. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
haven't checked that.
Yeah.
The not wearing any feminine clothes was
Mhm.
like a big draw for me, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you can be feminine without having to be feminine, but it's not an expectation. And this is as I was, being more comfortable with being gay, which is just like I just wanted to wear pants
Yeah.
and
Legit.
t-shirt. I didn't really understand why I had to do other things that society was telling me I had to do, which is interesting. So I think maybe our experiences were kind of different with Max, and it wasn't until like hindsight really came into play when I was like, oh, Max now makes a whole lot more sense for me
Yeah. Absolutely.
afterwards.
Yeah. It was one of those characters where I was just like super intrigued. I was super intrigued by his whole journey, but I could relate to it, but also not, and it was
Mhm.
just really confusing. But like all of the other characters, when they brought Max in, I didn't care anymore. I was just like, I just want to see Max on the screen the whole time.
They
Um,
also did Max dirty because I feel like, I mean, I quite liked the when Alan
yeah.
Cumming was in the show, and
Yes.
the dynamic there I thought was quite. That's what stuck in my brain was that there was someone who was so supportive, helping this person do whatever they needed to do.
Yeah.
Not that his character was a great person,
No.
he really wasn't. But that there's like a scene which I won't go into because it's intimate, and I want to get more into that sort of thing later, with other trans characters.
Mhm.
But there was a scene where they are being physically intimate, and he just says, "I like doing X, Y, Z with men," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
right,"
Yeah. I
and
remember
that
that.
has stuck in my head
Hmm.
since I've seen it, and I still didn't know why it stuck in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's, I think that the takeaways for me from the L Word were so Max Sweeney as a character and Bet and Tina's long term relationship. When I saw, okay, you can be queer and you can
Mm,
be in a relationship. Um, and even though I didn't see myself in Bet or Tina at all, and it was really just Max Sweeney that I was only interested in that character for the most part. It was cool to see that representation as well. So I think for me, when they brought in Max as a character, I was just like, okay, I know there's something like it's because I guess at that I don't know how old I was at the time, um, but I saw you could be queer but not just gay. I
yeah,
guess, not just a lesbian.
yeah. It
So
wasn't,
that
didn't make up
opened
all of
doors
your
for me.
identity.
Yeah, yeah, there were other ways to be queer, and that was cool to see that. So even though I hadn't figured all of that out, that representation was important for me. But yeah, it wasn't until years later when I realized that too. So it's just kind of interesting how
Hindsight
it
a
goes.
bitch. I
Yeah,
mean, I think we've said this sentiment quite a few times. We've
yeah,
spoken about queer topics. I do want to bring up a character that was in the L Word Generation Q, which was released, I want to say, in 2019, and it was a
mhm,
sequel series. Like Carry On. You've mentioned that you couldn't really get into it. That's
no,
fair. It was a very different show, and I think I would say I still have a lesbian soul. So I I still relate a lot to storyline, like sapphic storylines, more so
mhm,
than queer men. It's very hard for me to see myself in queer men, even though I am one.
sure,
So I went into it and I watched it, and I didn't really understand the younger, side of things. I was there mainly for the characters that I'd grown up with in quotation marks, through my sexuality. But there is a trans male character called Micah in here. Now, again, much like Jenny, didn't like him at all. He was a whiny bitch. Like, but one of the relationships that Micah has, and just forewarning for anyone, this is talking about, I guess, trans intimacy, which is something that does make a lot of trans people very dysphoric, is being intimate with other people, and it's super, super uncomfortable. There was a scene in this show, and I didn't finish it. I never finished it. There was this musical
oh,
episode in season 3, and I was like, I'm
wait,
done.
what?
Yeah, they were all singing. I
I
was like,
didn't know that.
I'm out, tapping out at this point. Um,
Wow.
and he was in a relationship or a situationship with a man, and they'd always been intimate in a particular way that made Micah feel more comfortable. He was open about his transition. He was like, I can only do this a certain way for it to feel right for me. And I just remember this scene very vividly where I won't go into graphic detail, but he shows this other person an insane amount of trust to be intimate in a different way with a body part that he is not comfortable with. And I remember like watching that scene and being so touched by it, being like,
Mm,
it I feel like unless you're in a relationship with a trans person or you are trans and you're trying to date, that is so fucking hard to do
yeah.
with
Yep.
someone you don't trust.
Yep.
And there has to be like 100% I'm safe here
Yep.
for that to be across the board. And that was so powerful to me
Yeah.
watching it
Wow.
because I was coming into, I guess, my understanding of myself at that point as well.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't like the character at all, that scene from that show will forever remain in my
Yeah.
brain.
Cool. I'm curious. I haven't. I did start watching it, and I couldn't. I think I've watched maybe 2 episodes, and I just couldn't commit to it. There was too much in there that didn't. It wasn't a feel good show, and I was just not in the
Very
way that L
political.
Word was.
It
Yeah.
was this time around was super political.
Yeah, which I think it needed to be, and it was important. It was just I couldn't do it at that time. Maybe I'll revisit it, but I'm actually curious how they would depict that in the show because that's important. Like to have that representation and have it be accurate and showing what is important, not just
Mm.
the not a graphic scene just for the sake of having it, but because
It was
what they needed to
education.
convey was important. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's really cool to hear. So
There's another character which are not from the L Word, like completely different show. And I've spoken about Elliot Fletcher a lot on these episodes, and I'll get to him. But he was in 2 shows around the same time, and I was watching him, but very similar in terms of the conversations. Way less graphic, but very similar in terms of the conversations, which I'll get to as we go through. I think we should hit up Queer as Folk next. Is that one? Is another one that we both
yeah, I
watched.
guess it's right there with the L Word, right? Queer as Folk, because I think it was just before.
I'm just
I
gonna
think you're
see
right.
how graphic these are before.
Yeah,
Oh, they're
yeah.
not
Check
that
those
bad. They're
before you
pretty
share.
PG.
Okay,
The show itself is not PG.
no, very much not. It was actually for the time. It was actually quite.
So you want to talk about Brian and Justin, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
ring
Well,
light
look,
stuff, man.
they're the memorable characters for me from Queer as Folk, just
That ring
because
light
I'd never
sucks.
seen. Yeah, you can't.
This is them.
You can search them up on the web. It's there. There's many pictures
So many pictures,
of
and on
those
other
people.
websites as well. If you're so inclined,
Just be careful if you do
just
that.
maybe
Not safe
go
for
in
work.
incognito mode and
Yes.
don't open it at work.
Yeah, it was actually look at the time it was breaking some
It was
boundaries
crazy.
there. It
It
was
was 2000s,
yeah
and
yeah
it
that hadn't been shown before.
dealt with so many
Um,
important issues, like queer male issues that weren't
yeah
really being spoken about.
yeah. And did it in a way that kind of it felt genuine. Like obviously I didn't grow up as a gay man, so I don't have again that experience either. But from my read of it, it felt genuine. It felt like it was dealing with a lot of the issues that actually do come up, but in a way, like they actually treated their interesting relationship that they had because it was very, you know, on off, casual, serious. It was a lot of that. Um, but I felt like it did it with a lot of heart, and it was nice to see that, and it didn't shy away from a lot of those really important but also difficult topics as well. But those characters themselves and the way that they were portrayed and the actors that played them, brilliant because they felt human. I could see people in those characters, and that's not always the case for. I think a lot of queer characters, especially when the focus is on their queerness and not them as
Mm,
people, and in a lot of these kinds of shows, it can get a little bit awkward. Like it starts to become it sort of dehumanizes them in a way. But I felt like, at least from my perspective, Brian and Justin they felt like people.
very messily flawed
Very
human
yes,
beings. I don't
exactly.
like Brian at all. I think he's an absolute shithead. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but what I will say, and like I have friends who still froth over him, and I was like, why? He's a
Yes.
toxic piece of shit. Like
Yeah.
he's just not a
Yeah.
good guy. And he does get more human, and you start seeing backstories of him, and there's a lot of things going on there. What I will say is I didn't relate to Brian. I've never related to Brian
No.
because he is a shithead.
Yeah.
But what I
Absolutely.
will say is the attitude that he had to being gay is something that I still carry with me now.
Hmm.
And in terms of my own queerness, it's that I'm queer. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
apologize for it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If you don't like it, you can fuck off.
Yeah, he owned it, and exactly that attitude. That was great to
But
see.
it wasn't the be all and end all of him
Yeah,
as a person. He just never
he just didn't give
named
a
it.
fuck.
He just didn't give a fuck. And I think that message is quite interesting because I, reflect a lot on internalized homophobia, and some of the characters that I've picked to talk about are characters that have difficulty or are in the closet hiding their queerness,
Mhm.
or characters that have never done this before. And I think for me, and we'll get into this with other characters, personally, the hardest coming out I ever had to do was the realization that I was sexually attracted to men after coming out as trans and going through a medical
Yeah,
transition, because I was so heavily against anything men
yep, yeah,
in a past life, because I was like, I so jealous of them, and I didn't realize that at the time. I
yeah,
just thought I hated them. I just wanted to be them, and I think that's something quite common in a transmasculine experience.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I love Justin. I still
yeah.
love Justin to this day, and I relate to Justin more than any of the other characters. Actually, no,
Absolutely.
that's wrong. But like, we were young, right? We were watching it.
It's his age, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's what a lot of us could see as young queer people.
Mm,
Whether no matter how you identified, I think you could see a little bit of yourself in Justin and just being like at school and having to deal with being queer and how open you are about that and how much that's okay and and then all the relationship stuff that comes with that. But I think it was important to see a young person representation before we had characters like Nick and what's his name
Charlie.
in Charlie and in Heartstopper. Like you know, we didn't have any of that, so this is what we had. And although it wasn't meant for young people, this show,
Not at all.
um, as young people, we watched it anyway because, of course, that's kind of what you did, because there wasn't anything else to turn to really. So I think for me as well, like again, I don't have I can't relate to the experience of being a gay man growing up,
Hmm.
but I can still see myself also in Justin. Absolutely.
It was interesting watching it again as an adult, because Queer as Folk, I don't rewatch a whole lot of stuff, but Queer as Folk is something I generally will rewatch every couple of years. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit dated in terms of it's not
Yeah.
as inclusive as it could be,
Yeah.
but what it did for queer people at that time was, I can't fault it, and it's still
Yeah.
entertaining, um,
Yeah.
as it is. I mean, I think now as an adult, I relate to Michael a lot, which is unfortunate for me if you watch the show. So Michael's also a little bit whiny, um,
Yeah, it's
but
true.
always worried about what's happening in the background.
Yeah.
But the relationship that I take away from it is Michael and his mother Debbie,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
Debbie. Oh,
was
Debbie.
I love Debbie. Debbie
She's
is one of my
great.
favorite characters ever on TV and movies, just ever.
Yeah.
Um, and I was very lucky. My parents were supportive throughout all of my coming outs. I think coming out as a lesbian back in the day of like just being a queer woman was the hardest. And I was like, after that, it's like ripping off a band-aid. Like you just, we've done it a couple of times now, but
It hurts at first, and then
it hurts at first, but then you're fine. But seeing a mother who was so passionate
yeah,
gave me, and I watched Queer as Folk before I'd even had the conversations of
yeah,
being queer in any
totally
capacity.
same.
And there was only the first two discs of season one at the local Civic Video back when those were a thing. And I would rent them out all the time,
Yeah.
like in secret. I'd like slip it in under DVDs. I don't think my dad, because he used to take us there, ever like looked at them. I don't know if he did. And they were like, "Are you sure you want to get this again?" And I was like, "Yeah, shut up." Hey, dude, don't just scan the thing.
That's amazing.
But yeah, like I remember that dynamic, and it helped me be less scared of. Not that I came out
Yeah.
to my dad. My dad told me in a car when I was learning to drive, and I nearly crashed.
Timing.
Yeah, I was like, "Cut! We're about to go on a roundabout, sir." Like, it wasn't even like my dad is not subtle at all. He was like, "Oh, hey, so you sleeping with that girl that you're bringing over?" And I was like,
Wow. Good grief. That's a story.
"It was
You haven't told me that one
it
before.
was one of the only times he let out the f bomb." He was
I
like,
feel like that warrants it.
"Same sex relationship, fine. Crashing this car, not fine." um,
Damn.
but yeah, it was interesting, and then so I never really came out as gay. It just sort of was a thing.
It's kind of
And
happy.
then I came out as trans, and I feel like everyone was like, "Yeah, okay, that makes sense. We can see it. We didn't have words for it." And I was like, "Bro, same."
Yeah, it's my life.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, I'm living it right now. But yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, but I did want to talk about again the new Queer as Folk, which got cancelled after one season. Honestly, thank the heavens because it was awful.
Yeah, I've not seen any of it.
But again, there was one character which I was captivated which was a trans female character called Ruthie. And they have one episode in the show, and I watched the episodes of it. I think that where this fell down is it tried to do too much too fast.
All right.
So there was just a lot. There was a lot happening. It was very hard to keep up to date with who was doing what. But there was an episode with Ruthie, and you go through her backstory and her realization through high school that she's trans. I have never cried so hard. I was inconsolable for like, I don't know, 12 hours afterwards. And I'm not a crier.
Yeah.
But the backstory of that character again is something that will always stick in my brain because it just hit me so hard. And I was like, I wish I'd figured this out in high school. But at the same time, I'm also glad I didn't while going through puberty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, she will forever be there in my brain.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't honestly seen a lot of trans women representation in anything, other than obviously, from many, many years ago, it was a lot of uh, not so great, let's just say, representation in, whatever shows, and, just random references that weren't great. And so it's one of those experiences that I think we need to see more of. And I know there's a character also in, and we'll probably talk about it in Heartstopper, that's a fantastic representation, and having those characters is so important. But I feel like I have seen more trans men rep
Yeah,
in
100% we have.
recent things.
I
Yeah.
would agree. I will say that if do you want to talk more about Queer as Folk before I jump?
I don't have anything else to say really. I've not seen the new one, and I don't think I probably will. So
It's honestly, it's not worth it. Don't do it. Nomi Marks, played by Jamie Clayton in Sense8, was the first trans
yes.
woman that I'd come across. And it was also the first time where I'd seen a same-sex relationship portrayed in such a positive light that included a trans person. And again, when I watched Sense8, which is brilliant, if you haven't watched Sense8, it's only 2 seasons. I would highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to talk about Sense8 and this character. I've not watched Sense8. I've seen like a couple of episodes, and I need to watch it because you've talked about it so much, and I know it's good. Yeah.
Honestly, I can't pronounce their surnames, but the people who made the Matrix.
Oh, the Wachowski siblings.
Yeah, they were the producers and the directors, I believe, of this show. It is done so well. The whole show is just queer. It's just so any part of the rainbow is in there. But I loved the portrayal of Nomi and her partner Amanita, I want to say her name was, being gay and being very openly gay with a trans woman. It was just excellent. And it was I'd not clocked the trans thing.
Yeah, right.
It was just a word that was being said, spoken around. And Jamie Clayton is one of those actresses that I think is super underrated. I think she's fantastic, and she was in the L Word as well, the newer one.
Yeah,
as one of the actresses, and I was like, hell yeah, she's playing. She doesn't have to play a trans woman anymore. She's just playing a woman because shock horror to J.K. Rowling, trans women are women. like it's just But I loved following her career, and it really started there for me, and seeing that in such a positive light.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I really need to. It's one of those shows that I don't know why. I have no good reason why I haven't seen it. You've talked about it. You've talked about it very highly, so I need to watch it. But I knew you'd be bringing it up, so I thought I'm off the hook. But I will watch it. Cool.
It really blurs lines of gender and sexuality in a way that I've never seen done before, and I think that the directors and the producers, again, can't pronounce the name, do that really well and really respectfully.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, nice. I want to mention anything else on Queer as Folk, L Word, because I think those two and the characters in them, because there's so many characters we could have talked about, like literally all of them. They had such a big impact on, I think, both of us because of our age at the time we watched them. But I do want to mention, because I have to, and I've talked about them before, but Xena and Gabrielle, because that's what started it all for me. This is going back to 97. So for me, that's the end of primary school, the beginning of high school, and that's where I was. And before I even watched the show, but that's when I was starting to question my sexuality. Um, and there was something about watching Xena, the show, with the two heroines of the show, with this relationship that they had that was absolutely completely subtext, and I didn't know what
Mm,
subtext was at the time. I had no idea what that term even meant. I didn't really know what I was seeing, but there was something going on, even though it wasn't actually main text in the actual show. And it's so interesting to think back at younger me, not knowing what I was really watching, but seeing something, because obviously the actors, um, Lucy Lawless and Renee uh, O'Connor, um, they were able to depict this relationship in a way that I don't think anyone else really could have. It was they had something because they had that relationship in real life. They were really good friends as well. They were able to use that and bounce off each other to make this relationship that they had in the show. There was just some magic there, and that was the first time I'd really seen any depiction of a lesbian relationship on TV. And again, I don't know, 12. But I saw something in it, and it wasn't really, again, it wasn't main text. It wasn't overtly being portrayed until, spoiler alert, it's been a long time, but spoiler alert, the very end, where there is a scene, kind of. They allowed that to kind of have its time in the sun, which was really nice to see, really heartwarming. But it wasn't really overtly shown, but they had just such a close friendship slash relationship, that yeah, I think a lot of younger people at the time found a lot of comfort in seeing that. And of course, that sparked a lot of like fan fiction and things like that. That a lot of people,
oh
those
yeah.
characters for a lot of us were super important. But I think yeah, I needed to mention it because at the time you couldn't really get away with having that on primetime TV. So they did a lot of what they could to kind of dance around the topic, but also doing it justice. And it's just yeah, there's a lot of subtext that when you go back and watch it, knowing that it's kind of cool. It's still there. It's still magic.
I feel like you watch Cena occasionally, don't you? Go back and rewatch.
I used to. I would watch it. I haven't really since I transitioned, to be honest. I'm in a weird space where going back and watching a lot of those kinds of shows that when I was figuring myself out, I'm still weird about it now. Yeah, I haven't really watched it since for like the last
I, I think
7 years
that's a
now.
process though, and maybe that's another topic
Yeah,
we can talk about. Like, I've only recently become comfortable with going and revisiting some of those things because I feel comfortable in myself nowadays. But I think that is a huge process for just
yeah,
for anybody on any gender journey. Um, so there's a before and after of realization essentially. A character that I do want to bring up before we maybe jump into Lost Girl, because that's on both of our lists as well,
yes, excited.
is I often have difficulty putting myself in a character's shoes because I've never really seen myself in many characters
Mhm.
until Patrick from Schitt's Creek has
Oh
come
yeah,
along. And I am Patrick from Schitt's Creek. But what I really loved about his character and his relationship with David, and I think comes into the I had difficulty with admitting bisexuality as a man, even though being attracted to men as a dude fit and it made more sense. And I think this is also plays into Nick Nelson from Heartstopper as well, and the journey just much younger. So one's an adult,
yeah.
one's in high school. Um, but Patrick sort of goes, I don't know what this is. I haven't felt this way before about a man. I'm really uncertain and I need guidance. And just the way that David is able to create space, and David's a very dramatic character in Schitt's Creek. If you've watched the show, we all know there's memes about it everywhere. But he did a very good job of creating space for someone who was unsure. And I felt that in my own relationship because I was with Rachel when I came out as trans. and figuring out my sexuality again. Like years later, I was like, and I thought I might be gay for a while because my brain was so focused on attraction to men and being like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand what this is. And she similarly created space for me to be able to explore that. So, Patrick and they're dynamic as a couple, but Patrick in particular, because he's also very like, down the line, he's a pretty straight and narrow kind of
Yeah.
character and guy, and the ridiculousness of David, and it's a dynamic that works. And I feel like if people knew Rachel and I on our level, could probably see some similarities between that couple and my own relationship. So he will always mean a lot to me because when you transition, I'm not going to speak for every trans person, but I certainly felt that I had to become an adult again, and it was
Mm.
very interesting to go through puberty and not be able to control or regulate emotions. And I was watching Schitt's Creek around the time when I felt like I'd started to regulate again, and I was able to be an adult again after a couple of years of hormones and being more comfortable. And just seeing that dynamic was really special. Also, I'm so similar to Patrick, so it's just
It's a special thing when you see yourself in characters though. Like that's and I don't even just mean queer representation. I mean like anything. It is
mm,
important to have any kind of representation on TV and in anything. But it is a special thing, and you remember, like, you take those characters with you and you carry them with you throughout your life. Like, they become a comfort and a way of knowing you're not alone and that there's someone else that understands you
yeah.
and has a similar experience to you. So, yeah.
I think, if we talk to anyone, in the audience or outside of Genre Blender, what your experience is and what characters you relate to, they're going to be very different to the ones
Yeah.
that we relate to here. Um, so I guess we'll talk about Nick Nelson or Heartstopper, I guess, as a series. And if there's any, because you have the trans female character, I forgot what her name is
I
in
was
the show.
looking it up. I
Um,
don't remember.
but watching season 2 and in this season, Nick is having a lot of difficulty just saying the words and coming out as a bisexual male. And I think that I relate to that as well. Being like,
Yeah.
and also being this age and being over 30, like, I don't feel like I need to come out anymore. I can just be, and that's fine. Like, I don't need to explicitly tell people. I don't hide it, but I also don't wear the flags or anything
Yeah.
on my body. But seeing him have such a difficult time with it is very interesting. Because I think if I was, in my late teens or mid to late teens, I probably wouldn't have a fucking clue either
Yeah.
with what he's trying to do. So it hits hard, even though it's not a shared experience,
Yeah.
which is
It,
interesting.
it's, I think because we were talking about it just briefly before we started recording, and I think we both kind of agreed that it's like, this show and the depiction of its characters are so important, and it's not only like important that these characters exist and that this show exists, but also that the way they've handled the characters and
Mm,
these relationships is special. There's something special about it. So I haven't read the comics, but I'm sure the author of the comics, whose name I cannot remember, I'll look it up. It'll be in the show notes. I'm sure it's very intentionally done, where the characters are human and treated like kids growing up and dealing with all the things kids normally deal with growing up. They just happen to be queer, and I love that the focus isn't necessarily on the queerness so much as just
kids
these are
growing up.
kids growing up. Yeah, this is stuff that everyone deals with, and this just happens to be the stuff that queer kids have to deal with. So yeah, it's like I don't relate to the characters that much either. I think they're special and they're
Mm,
super important. I like to the show enough, but yeah, I don't obviously see myself
yeah.
in those characters. Yeah,
I think
I'm
what's
too old.
interesting yeah, that's it. But I think it's interesting that we can see ourselves in particular situations more so than
Yeah,
characters. Um,
the trans character is her name's Elle, by the way.
that's right.
Yeah,
Ellen Tao is
yeah,
the interest
yeah,
there.
yeah. Tao's great
Um,
too. Yeah,
she's excellent. That actress is doing a very,
fantastic.
very good job. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, the showrunners are doing, again, quite like Sense8, but very different. Just in that the respect that is shown to the identities while talking about issues that these
yeah.
identities tend to run into has been very, very good throughout the show.
Yeah, I think they're the relationship between Nick and Charlie. I think that'll be one that is remembered for a lot of people. A lot of people, like when younger people become our age and older,
Mm,
they'll think back to
yeah,
Nick and Charlie. You know, so,
and I think that's nice because we grew up
yeah,
fucking Justin and Brian.
yeah,
That was our
exactly,
reference. And I look,
exactly.
to be fair, like gay male culture, I'll say, I won't say queer culture,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
gay male culture can stereotypically be very party and drugs and this obsession with youth and beauty. Whereas you look at Heartstopper, it's just so wholesome.
yeah.
In comparison, it's like
Wholesome is the
it's
word.
just like wholesome and falling in love for the first time,
Yeah,
and that just happens to be with someone of the same sex,
yeah,
and it's really lovely and heartwarming. Um,
yep.
I've just looked at the time. Maybe we need to do a second part to this episode
I
on
th-
its
I
books
think we might. I think we should probably just
because
focus on the
just
TV and
TV because I've
yeah,
still got another three things to talk about.
yeah, yeah. We
Okay,
might have to, and I think that's fine. I think it'll still be June, Pride
this will
Month.
be June. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll do a
It's
part two.
fine. Okay.
All right. So, do you want to talk about Lost Girl? Because I think it's the last one we have.
As a shared
Similarly.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Go
I
for it.
completely forgot when I was putting the list together. I completely forgot, and I looked it up. I was doing a web search for just like queer characters in general, and immediately when I saw the names Bo and Lauren, I was just like, "Oh my god, I forgot all about them." I don't even remember. Do you know when this show was
I
out,
want
Lost
to
Girl?
say it's 2010.
I
It was.
think
I
you're
was in
right.
uni. I was in a couple of years into uni. I'm going with 2010.
Yeah, you're right. 2010.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember. I don't remember when I watched this show. It must have been pretty close to when it was airing at the time.
I think this is one of
Um,
the only shows that I've watched and I was waiting week to week to watch
yes,
the next episode.
yeah. If you haven't watched Lost Girl, by the way, if you have any interest in watching sort of queer TV, queer characters on TV, and just a very fantasy,
Let's be fair, it's
um,
trash. Like
it's it's
the show is
it is
trash.
it is and
It's
it's not
excellent. It's
because
fun trash.
it's very I think it's actually done really well. Like you look, it's not it's not high quality super intellectual television, let's be real, but it is I think it's very well done for what it is because I don't usually like this kind of thing
It's very
at
fantasy for
all.
you.
Yes, exactly. But I loved
Yeah.
it, right? So what does that say, right?
Um,
Um
one of the only times I've ever been starstruck is by meeting the actress who played Lauren in person.
oh, no joke. Have you really
I
met her in person?
Yeah, I got a hug because I was shooting myself.
She's just such a
She like
what a,
leant
what a,
over and gave me a hug, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And she was like, breathe. What you do is you breathe, and I was like, okay, well, that's great.
No way. Oh, I didn't know that. She's a Canadian actor, I'm pretty sure. She's been in Zoe Palmer. She's been in everything.
She was in Dark Matter. I quite liked her in that too,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's a
She's
sci-fi
so
show that
good.
I've watched. So
Hey,
I watched one
nice.
season. I didn't watch the rest of it.
Oh yeah, it wasn't that. It was fine. It was alright.
Zoe Palmer has been in quite a bit.
Yeah. But yeah, Bo and Laura and their relationship individually, those two characters, really, really interesting. Bo is I don't know, she's meant to be
She's,
Fae
she's a
character,
succubus. She's a
succubus.
yeah.
That's right.
Um,
So there's all that fantastical stuff, in her character as well. That's all really interesting. But then her as a as a character, as a fully fleshed out character, was interesting. But then I think when you brought in Lauren and their relationship, because Lauren, I believe she's a lesbian character. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
she's sapphic. I don't
Um,
think she ever went.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
want to give spoilers away. I almost did.
Yeah, we gotta be careful what we say.
Yeah.
But I think when that relationship was introduced, that was when I was really super interested because
Mhm.
these characters individually are interesting, but together and their relationship, that is what that show was all about for me. And obviously there's a bunch of other characters and stuff, but those two, yeah, just they take up space in my brain rent free. Absolutely.
What I really liked about Lost Girl, and I like fantasy, so and I also like trash television, so I was sucked in from the beginning. I will say that Canada were at the forefront of a lot of these shows, like where all the filming and stuff
Absolutely.
was done.
Yeah.
The studios were not afraid to
Yeah.
explore queer
Yeah. A
identities
lot of
and queer
genre TV at the
characters.
time.
Yeah, because they went on to do Orphan Black after that, which also had a queer character in it, and Kesnia. Kenzie, whoever
Kenzie.
Kenzie
Yeah.
played.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her real name, which is
Yeah.
it's like
I don't know
Russian and
either.
hard to pronounce.
Yes.
She was also in Orphan Black for a season as a queer character, which was interesting. But anyway, sorry, back to Lost Girl. This was the first time that I'd seen something that I could describe as a queer normative world on
Yes.
television, because it was never really spoken about in terms of who you're attracted to. People were just people. And it's
Yeah.
something that I really appreciate in books, is those queer normative worlds where it's not overt, like you're not gay or queer. You just are. You're just a
You're just a
person.
person first.
And
Yeah.
I got that from Lost Girl. And
Yeah.
I really loved I don't know the actress name, Anna someone.
Anna Silk.
Anna Silk, who played
Yeah.
Bo. She was in her late 30s when she got the gig, and she was playing a badass. And it was also one of the first times where I'd seen someone who was at the time older, like significantly older than me, who
Yes.
was in an action, and she was celebrated
And
as
kicking
this
ass.
and kicking ass, but she was also celebrated as like a sexual being,
Yeah.
where I feel like at the time, and still very much relevant in Hollywood today, you see women wrongly, I'm not going to say rightly, wrongly get to a certain age and then drop off the face of the earth
Yeah.
unless they fight to be in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And it was the first time where I'd gone, damn, like she is a bisexual badass. And
Yeah.
I just want to be her. Like, because
Yeah.
she was amazing. I could
Yeah.
never pull off leather boots like Bo could.
No.
Can you imagine our short asses trying to pull off
Come up
knee-high
to our
leather
knees.
boots?
Yeah.
But yeah, I also love Lauren. I was quite captivated by Lauren as just a very intelligent female character, paving the way for women. Like, I think this show was quietly feminist as well.
Absolutely.
Being
Yes.
able to push, you know, there's no expiration date. Women can still be smart, like, and beautiful and kick ass, like no matter what
Yeah.
it is. And so I love that. But the character that I really took from Moscow was Vex, who was played by Paul someone. And he was part of the dark, so there's light and dark, as there is with a lot of these shows. And he was part of like the bad side, but he ended up having a bigger part in
Oh,
the
I know who you're talking
show
about.
towards the end.
Yeah.
What's his surname? It's Paul someone.
Amos. Paul
Amos,
Amos.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also just queer. Like but
Yeah.
it was never spoken about.
No, they didn't need to
They didn't need to
specify.
speak about it.
No.
Any gender was just, and you got so invested, or at least I did, got invested in whatever relationship was happening at the time, except for when Jenny was in there.
That's the only time.
Except the only time, and
Yeah.
then Jenny was there, and I was like, "Why is Jenny here?
Yeah, get out!
Get out! This is not your show."
Yeah, it's one thing I want to mention with Bo and Lauren's relationship and their characters. They were everything that Xena and Gabrielle didn't get the opportunity at that time in
That's
1997 and whatever to have, right?
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that dynamic. And that was, you're going, what's that, 15 years difference? Is my maths right? Something like that.
Ish.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Right,
just add that caveat in there, we'll be fine.
And just so how much could change in that time, right? What was allowed to be on TV at that time. So I think that's partly why I loved it so much, because finally I could see this relationship that, again, at the time I was kind of I didn't super identify that way, but also, I knew I wasn't straight. So like, and I was in a relationship with a woman at the time and still am, so like, there was something there, and I just needed to see more queer characters on TV at that time as well. So it was nice to see that. But yeah, everything that Xena and Gabrielle couldn't be was in this relationship, and it was great. It was so great.
I think it's interesting if you look at, I guess, the timeline of the shows that we've watched, and I do want to bring up Elliot Fletcher before we finish for the day, because it was so important to me personally. But if you look at the timelines, right, so Queer as Folk, 2000, making waves in 2000 and 2005. After that, you hit the L Word. L Word lasted, I don't know, 5 or 6 seasons. We don't count the last season because it was shocking. It ended at season 5 for me, personally.
Sure. Fair.
And then we get things like, sorry, pointing behind me, Lost Girl, 2010. So there's this timeline of it becoming almost taboo and shocking to have it in front of your face, to it being normalized. And I feel like we're at an age now where who knows if we're going to regress because of what's happening in
I
the
think we
world
kind
right
of have
now.
a little bit.
We
Yeah.
probably will, which means it's important to be talking about it, right? And to be
Yep.
putting it in front of people's faces. Queer people aren't here to shove people's noses in it. We just exist. And that's what I like over the timeline that we've seen, and hopefully we don't regress too far back, is that we're now at a point where queer characters are just characters in a story. It's not their be all and end all.
Mhm.
And a show that I'll bring up to talk about this point in particular is Grey's Anatomy, which has been going on for 1,000 years
Yeah.
at this point.
Legit.
Literally 1,000 years. Look it up on IMDb or wherever you look at it.
Yep.
It's
That's
just
what it
never
is.
ended and it never will. But I remember Calliope in Arizona from Grey's Anatomy and their dynamic. And it was when they were doing it, which I think it started also in 2000 and what are they now? They're like season like 25 or something stupid. So
Don't know.
it must have been around early 2000. I want to say 2005 as well, um, when it started.
Yep. Spot on.
But the relationship was quite new and fresh, and it was innovative for TV to have two women, grown women who had other relationships established in their life, falling in love. And now with Grey's Anatomy, I mean, we've had trans male characters in there. We've had like queer relationships don't even need to be, doesn't have to have a spotlight on it. They're just queer. And I think as a show that's been running for so long, it was very interesting because I grew up with Calliope in Arizona, seeing their relationship, and then I tapped out at like season 14. I'm so far removed from Grey's Anatomy now. But my housemate watches them and like walking in and like getting little snippets of it. And I think it's just cool that it's a show that's been able to adapt to have the new thing, trans people being the new thing. I'll roll my own eyes at that. But like
Yeah.
being at the forefront of that conversation and being like, well, I'm going to put this in your face so that
Yeah.
you see that these people exist.
Yep.
And I will say that I'm not the biggest fan of Shonda Rhimes, but she has been able to do that with her shows and not shy away from it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like, that's probably the biggest thing these days, like, and in the time that we're in right now, especially right now. I think seeing these characters as just people, I
Mm,
think that's where things are going to move towards, because
hopefully.
we've seen the queer representation, we've seen queer characters dealing with queer specific issues in a lot of these shows, and now what we need to see more of, that we were starting to see sort of, around the mid 2010s and whatever, is more just like, queer characters, but human first, who happen to
Yeah.
be queer, right? And that's what I'm hoping to see more characters of. One, just to quickly mention, like, in Star Trek Discovery, we kind of started to see that with Paul Stamets and Hugh, his partner, that relationship, and there was a little bit of emphasis on their queerness, a little bit, but not really. They were just people because it's Star Trek, and in Star Trek, in this utopian universe, it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. So it's cool to see. I think we're getting there, but yeah, I also hope we're not regressing, because I kind of feel that we are.
I feel like I feel like conservative society wishes that we would shut up and go away, and that's why it's important
Yeah.
for us to not shut up
Yep.
and go away right now.
100%.
Um, yeah. I will quickly, briefly. Those words mean the same thing.
Not on this
Um,
podcast, you won't.
I try. Give it my best shot.
Mhm.
Talk about Elliot Fletcher, who I know I've mentioned many, many times in this podcast before. But what I thought I would do is, like we've been trying to do this whole episode, is to put weight behind why these characters mean so much to us.
Mhm.
Now, I mentioned intimacy before, and I'm going to return to that because that, for me in particular, in my transition, I don't have a lot of dysphoria around much, but that was just a wall, and I couldn't get past it. Elliot Fletcher's character in The Fosters, he played someone called Aaron Baker, trans male both time. He's a trans masculine actor, and he, in his early career, played trans male characters, which is very important visually and visibility wise for me at the time.
Mhm.
And around the same time, he also played Trevor on Shameless. Very different shows. One is family friendly, one is very not. But in these shows, so in The Fosters, he was a straight trans man who got into a relationship with a cisgendered woman, and in Shameless, he was a trans gay man who got into a relationship with a cisgendered man. And the dynamics, and there was conversation around intimacy and sex in both of those shows, and again, very powerful. Now, Peter Page, who played Emmett in Queer as Folk, wrote The Fosters and produced The Fosters, and he does a lot in queer media nowadays. Um, Handled that incredibly respectfully, and it was a conversation between trans man and cis woman, which is, or trans masculine, I guess, is both of our experience, and cisgendered woman. Very, very hard to have that conversation, especially in an established relationship where there is trust and the dynamic has changed. And I'm only going to speak about my own experience. All of that cut off, couldn't do it for months, maybe close to like years. But seeing this relationship unfold and having that conversation and seeing that happen on screen, to be like, this isn't just sex to me, this is the most intimate thing I can do with somebody, and I'm not there yet, and have that be respected, was super powerful at that time. And likewise, in a show that was very graphic in Shameless, that conversation again coming up, and being a trans top gay male is not a fun place. Like, I don't envy people in that situation, but having that conversation, and this actor has done both of those conversations incredibly well. I thought, like, having that available for not only myself but for other people to reference, because it is such a hard thing to talk to anyone about, and it's
Yeah.
taboo. Like, you still don't talk to your friends and family about those things, even though
Yeah.
you may need advice. Having it visually in that way was very important for me.
Yeah, that's it just reminded me of something, which is like when we were like early in our transition, I think you and I had this
Around the
shared
same time,
experience
yeah.
where we would look at a lot of we would watch a lot of YouTube videos and people's
Mm,
experiences, being able to talk about their experiences specifically. And I think it's important that you still have the fiction as well,
yeah.
and what you can explore in fiction, because a lot of the things, like, yeah, we got a lot of insight from people sharing their own actual lived experiences, but I think it's also important to have fictitious characters, who where you get to explore a lot of that doesn't get said, because there were certainly things that people on YouTube didn't really want to talk about or couldn't talk about in the same
It removes
way
the
as
barrier,
openly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important, and yeah, that's super rare to have that depicted on TV. So yeah, yeah, really cool.
But yeah, very, very grateful to that actor to having
Mm,
the
yeah,
guts to do it, because it's,
yeah,
it takes people like that with that sort of passion to go, these are things that trans people, again, I experience, need to have represented. And I can't imagine that was comfortable to do as a
no,
trans
that would be
actor,
so freaking hard.
but being
Yeah.
like, this is important, so I'm going to do it. It's really powerful. But yeah, I think I've finally gotten through my list. What about you? On
Hey,
TV, we got it.
nice.
And that concludes the television section of.
Yeah, no joke. This went way. I mean, look, I knew it would be long, but this long, wow. There's one I didn't mention that I won't say much about because it's still new-ish. Like, the show is still newish or still airing, or at least I think it's in the last season, which is both Victor Hargraves from the Umbrella Academy, and I guess Klaus as well. In addition to, but Victor, played by Elliot Page, uh, transitions on the show, because he transitioned in real life. And so they wrote that into the character, but also didn't really make a thing of it as well. And I just wanted to mention that because that was cool to see that, yes, the role that he was playing prior to his transition just continued on. They wrote it into the show, didn't make a big thing out of it. All of the family members were like, yeah, that's cool, no problem, and just carried on. And like that, again, it's just cool to see that depiction.
How unique to Elliot
Yeah,
Page to
yeah, I
have
know,
that
right?
done, right?
To be able to do that, and
This guy has somehow been like at the forefront of all the movements, like
yeah,
throughout our timelines.
yeah, and I don't imagine it would be, again, super comfortable to have to do, because you don't have a choice if you're that big of a star, of an actor, a celebrity, and everyone knows that you've transitioned and you had this role prior to you know, your transition, that like it would be difficult to have those conversations and do it
For
over and
sure.
over. So I think they did him a real good thing by writing that his character that way. But yeah, things like that. Like I hope we see more of that. You know, going forward. I think we will. But it's just cool to be living in this time where that's something that you can see on TV. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's my list as well. I think we yeah, the
Nailed it.
TV/film, and all of
We
these I think are TV characters, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I had
yeah.
any film
I
characters.
I mean, I have seen them in films before, but I feel like with television, you get so much more nuance to a
Yeah,
person and a character. Um,
yeah,
and I certainly, when I was younger and discovering all this, my attention span wasn't great, so I was gravitating a lot more towards
yeah.
television and quick things that I could get in.
Hmm. Absolutely. But yes, we'll do a part two, and we'll probably do a combined books and games in part two if we can.
I don't
We,
have any
we probably
games,
have
so that's all
less.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a lot of my big moments that I think you had in TV and film. A lot of those were games for
Games,
me.
right?
So we'll have a lot of that to talk about next time. But yeah, that's collectively it's kind of cool to see and talk about all of these characters and go, you know what, we actually had some pretty standout, memorable
Yeah.
queer characters over the years.
At least with the books and the games, I think will be different, like because we read
Yeah,
differently.
probably.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right.
Cool. Well, that about does it for today's episode. So we'll do again a part two next fortnight.
Whoopies.
Put another list together.
Yeah.
Damn it. But thank you so much for watching and listening, and happy Pride. It is Pride Month, and we'll be out there, visible, with everyone else, talking about our experiences and sharing our experiences. But yeah, all the notes to the stuff we talked about, all the links and everything will be in the show notes for the episode. You can find the show at Genre Blender Podcast on YouTube and in your podcast player of choice. You can follow us at Genre Blender Podcast on Blue Sky and Instagram, and our website as well, genreblenderpodcast.com. Kris is at A Fictional Escapist everywhere, including YouTube and Instagram. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm on social media anymore, but otherwise it's Ryan.Floyd on Blue Sky and no, on Instagram, whatever. I haven't used social media in like months now. So anyway,
What is Instagram?
what is
I
social?
don't know.
Yeah, don't know.
Cool. To all the world hoppers out there, we wish you safe travels and a safe Pride as well. It can be scary out there, so look after yourselves. We will catch you in the next episode where I guess we'll be doing a part two.
Indeed.
All right.
Till
Well,
then.
until then,
See you next time.
ciao.